Chapter 28, Part 4, Phases of the Moon. I briefly mentioned phases of the moon in Part 3, but here we're going to focus on them. You do need to know the different phases. The moon has a series of phases that it goes through called the lunar cycle as the moon orbits the Earth. We see different amounts of the illuminated side. The new moon is when we do not see the moon. Basically, this means that it's up during the day. Waxing is the size of the visible portion of the moon getting larger. Full moon is when we see half of the moon that is lit. This is when we can see the whole half of the moon that is illuminated by the sun. And waning is a term that we use to describe the size of the visible portion of the moon getting smaller. As you see the moon going from east to west, that does not mean that the moon doesn't travel in a counterclockwise manner. It appears to go from east to west because of Earth's daily rotation. We see the moon rise in the east and set in the west. This is because Earth rotates west to east. It's very important that you understand this. As the moon trails behind the sun about 13 degrees per day, the moon rises 50 minutes later each day. We need to learn the phases of the moon in order. We will start with new moon. Then the moon, the portion we get to see, gets larger. Waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, and full moon. That's when we see the whole illuminated side. Then the portion of the lit side of the moon gets smaller. Waning gibbous, third quarter, waning crescent, and back to new moon, which is a repeat of number 1. And the cycle repeats. The inner circle is the moon orbiting around the Earth. As you can see, the side facing the sun, which as you see at the bottom of the diagram, the sun is at the bottom. The side of the moon on the inner circle facing the sun is always lit, and the side facing away from the sun is always dark. It all depends on where we are on the Earth as to what we see. The outer boxes are what we see from Earth. Let us pretend that we are here, where the cursor is wiggling, and we are looking at this portion of the moon. Well, we can't see it because that's new moon. As we move in a counterclockwise fashion, we see waxing crescent, the first quarter, a larger area of waxing gibbous. If we were here, we would see the whole illuminated side, the full moon. Then the lit portion gets smaller, waning gibbous, last quarter, and just a sliver, the waning crescent, and back to new moon. This shows the moon's appearance from Earth during its phases. Where would the sun be located? If you said it was on the left for this diagram, you are correct. This is the end of Chapter 28, Part 4. Be sure you learn your phases of the moon in order.